Really? A complete car?
It was a complete car. The front end still lays on. Complete car was all there. The only thing was the motor that was in it was junk. It was froze solid. Wouldn't turn. The tranny, the rear end, and everything was just as it is right now. I didn't do a thing to it.
It's in really good shape, Bill.
Well, it ain't bad. You should have seen it before, though. The inside of it's pretty rough. There was no glass in it, no interior. It was perfect for this job. It was perfect. I found it in here on the internet, on eBay. I hang out with a lot of Billy Otway shop. Him and I are very good friends. He's been very good to me. And I come in here and I hang out and get on his computer on eBay looking at old cars. And I ran across that car. And I kept looking at it and I said, God damn it, I make a nice jalopy. I can make a jalopy out of that. Because you can't take something too good and rip it off.
Right.
You could, but because I've got a 46 for it, just like that, but it's way better than this one was. That was my first road car. I've still got it. Glass and interior and everything's in it. But anyway, I walked away from it 3 times. I walked away from the computer. And then I kept coming back to it. I said, no, I got a bid on this damn thing. So I was going with a girl at the time who was good on computers and this and that. She put a bid in on it for me. I told her I must have bid. She bid on it. I'll be a son of a bitch, I got it. But it was in Missouri. So now I got to get it home. So talking with Billy, and I told him, I said, I bought this freaking car in Missouri. I said, I got to get it home somehow. Well, he had a trip to St. Louis anyway. And he kind of owed me a couple favors. So he said, Dad, I'll help you get it home. So me and him and my grandson Matthew, Billy's oldest boy, we set out in his dually Ford with one of Autoway's open trailers from Missouri. Billy did his meeting. And when he got done, we had another 120 miles or so to go to get to the car. Good thing we had a Garment, because we started out on the interstate to a 2-lane, to a little 2-lane, to a freaking dirt road. I'm not shitting you. This car was out in the Jingweeds, and the guy I bought it from was at a game, some type of football, or a basketball game or something his kid was in. So I had already paid him, on PayPal. So all we had to do now is load it up and get out of there, and this is dark. It's 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And it's a good thing I just went and got this, because there's a reason for this. It's a good thing we had the foresight, one of us, to get a come-along. I can't remember if Billy said or I said, but we stopped at a Walmart and bought this come-along and had it with us. Because the goddamn thing would move. The engine was seized up. The shifter was seized up, so we couldn't get it out of gear, so it would roll. He did the bulk of it. He dragged it up on there. He was a bull anyway. I helped with it, but he dragged it up on there with this come-along. And it was quite a project. We got it loaded up and we hauled it back here. I can't remember exactly when. It's been 7, 8 years I've had. In fact, I'll tell you another tidbit here. When Mikey Knight got married, his reception was right down here, down the road.
Yeah.
Exempt hall was.
Mm-hmm.
So I took some paper and I put 9K on it and taped it to the doors, and we rolled it outside because they were going to come by here. They stopped and he got in it in a tuxedo. Somebody's got a picture of it. I saw it once. Mikey Knight sitting in that car with his tuxedo on the day he got married. So that was a cool memory. I just finally got serious this year. I decided I want to get it done and get it over to track and have some fun with Jimmy. Because I was telling Jim about it one day. This was before he bought the track. He said, we're going to race one of these days. I said, that's good with me. I said, I race with Chevy and David. I just soon race with Dad. That'd be fun. I know he's going to kick the shit out of me, but that's all right. So
Bill, walk over to the car. Talk to me about it. What am I looking at here? I'm a non-car guy, so educate me.
What do you want me to start?
Well, just walk over and tell me what am I looking at? A 19 what?
Well, the car's actually a 41.
Mm-hmm.
They had the same body style from 41 to 48. It's got a 49 Mercury flathead in it. Well, it's actually a Ford Mercury. I got Mercury and cam and heads on a Ford short block that I completely rebuilt. Motor that I've had for many, many years. And the rest of it's all stock from there back. The rear end, the transmission, it's all original Deere stuff.
So what intrigued you to get this 1941 car and the number 18? What's the story
Well,
here?
that's the start of it all. That's where the number 18 came from. My father and another man owned a jalopy together. They had another guy, a third guy that drove it named Don Strain. And he'd driven cars before, had his own cars. He was, back in the day, was quite a good driver. And they used to run it up here on the hill at Coon Road on Sunday afternoons. And I'd go up and sit in the stands with my mother and watch it. Then every now and then they'd take it to State Line, run a 100 lap with it. That's how I got the bug to go racing. And I just, in later years, just got it in my head I wanted to build a copy of it. I've got some pictures I want to show you. Because I never had a picture of this car. And a mutual friend of me and Bill Ottaway's used to hang out here too, still does, young fella, Don Strain's grandson. And I asked him one day, I said, you don't have any pictures of the old car that your grandfather drove for my dad, do you? And he said, I'll ask my grandmother. So he did, and by God, about a week later, he showed up with this picture of this car, of the original car.
Really?
And from that point on is when I got to think, God, I'd like to build a copy of that. Because back in the day when all this happened, when they were running, my dad's partner died. He only raced his car maybe 2 years at the most. In spring of '62, my dad's partner's name was Carl Larson, Swede Larson. They were in the garage business together. And he died, and my dad got out of the garage business and he went to work down here at Ajax. And they sold the racer. And, I tried to get my dad to keep that car so bad, but he wouldn't do it. He was in it more because Carl was in it. And he tried to discourage me from doing it when I first wanted to race, but of course I didn't listen, did it anyway. And then he supported me all through my racing career. He was always there to watch, and help at home a little bit if I needed it.
What's your dad's name, by the way?
Marion, Catania. And anyway, that's where my heart was originally, was with this car, the original car. And I just wanted to build one like it, just to say there it is. And not only that, it's not just about this car; it's about that whole era. It's about the Jimmy Dunns and the Johnny Ditches and the Ted Hausers and the Jim Hausers. That whole era. I was old enough to remember it, and I still do. There's things on this car. Those rear fenders are cut like that for a reason. There was a man named Ted Hauser that drove a blue number 14 coupe just like this. Sharp car, and Ted did really well. And they had the rear fenders trimmed just like that on that car. And they had a picture of a Sphinx painted right there, and they called the car Little Buddha because Buddha Haskins was one of the owners of the car and worked on it. So, all these little memories I'm trying to fit together, into this car. It's not just about my dad and Swede Larson Strain. It's about that whole era. Johnny Ditch bought a coupe from a guy named Jimmy Dunn from Lawrence Park that was a hot shoe, and John would run it up in Arkwright, and I'd go watch him up there. My dad still took me to the races even after he got out of it. So I followed the sport for a long time.
So you remember Arkwright also?
We were at Arkwright. Yes, we were at Arkwright, and the Gilbert brothers were running up there. They had a car number 3Gs, the three Gilberts, Dick, Bob, and Miley, and they shared the car. Ditch ran up there, and that car he built. By the way, that car that Jimmy Dunn had belonged to Danny Armbruster's father, which I didn't find out until later years. All these things you find out little bits and pieces I didn't know back then. I was only 9 years old. How the hell do I know what's what? I saw Jimmy Dunn a few times. He wasn't a very big man, but won a lot of races at Coon Road. He did. But I don't know. There's just a lot of memories connected with this car.
So walk me around the car. Just tell me what the engine is and.
Well, the engine's a '49 Ford. Actually, like I say, I rebuilt it. I've owned this engine for years. It was in my first street car, and I saved it. I took it out because I put a different engine in that car, and I saved this. This was in my dad's barn till I bought this car.
No, hold it up.
Because the engine that was in this car was junk. It was junk. But this was a good engine, so I completely tore it apart and rebuilt it for this project. And I put a used Mercury cam I found on the internet in. It's got Mercury heads. The rest of it's all Ford. I put rings and bearings in it. Danny Chapman, my buddy for years, that helped us state line with us as a maintenance man. He ground the seats in the block for me, and that's about all the machine work that was done to it. We ground the seats, and I cleaned it up by hand and rings and bearings in, put it back together. It's nothing fancy. It ain't no race motor, but it's a nice, smooth running old flathead.
Yeah. So Don Strain is over here at number 18, and that was Don's number. And
on this car, it was Don's. Don had different numbers, but this particular car was number 18.
And so this would have been a replica again of a car which your dad would have been involved in, right?
It is, and I think where the number 18 came from, if I remember right, my dad's partner, Carl Larson, they nicknamed him Swede. He was very tall, Swede.
Yeah.
Had a daughter named Sandy, and I think she was 18 years old about this time. No, I think that's where the number.
That makes
I'm
perfect sense.
not positive because there's nobody left to ask.
Yeah.
There's only one guy left to ask, and I don't know if he knows or not, and that would be Carl's son, Billy, who's in Florida somewhere, but I haven't seen him in 50 years.
So what's your recollection of Don Strain? I mean, we've read about him, but as a driver.
Don was good. Don was a very nice man, but I'll tell you what, he was good.
Yeah.
I can tell you a story about this car, how good he was.
Okay.
They used to run this car at Coon Road, had a flathead in it, and he'd do all right. One day he was winning a feature up there. It would have been the first one I ever see him win, and it blew up from turn 4 to the flag. It blew up in the front straightaway. I still remember it. My father came out there in his little old Chevy pickup, and they hooked onto it and towed it home. And there was a 100-lapper coming up a state line, Labor Day 1961. And they said, well, I guess we won't be able to run that. We don't have no motor to run. And in the meantime, my dad had bought a rolled over 56 Pontiac and laid in his barn. Bought it for parts for his road car. And he come home from work one day, and he worked at the garage with Swede, and he said, well, I guess we're going to race. We're going to put that Pontiac engine in the racer, which wasn't legal, of course. And I said, well, that's cool, you know, because like I say, I'm 9 years old. You got to remember all this. I'm just a kid at the time. And so the state line, they went with it. And there was probably 50, 60 cars in that 100-lapper. You know how them 100-lappers used to be. And I'm sitting in the stands with my mother, and I don't know where he's running. I see him keep going around and around and around. And, you know, back then, this left front tire used to be really small. They put a real little tire on the left front, big tire on the right front. And a yellow came out somewhere around, the last yellow I remember was somewhere around 70-some laps. And, of course, old Lloyd Williams was announcing, you know, and that voice, you could never forget that voice, ever. He was a great man. He comes on the loudspeaker and he goes, there's 70-some laps down, and 20-some to go, and Don Strain's out front in the number 18, but anything can happen. I thought, holy shit, he's leading. No, it's a true story, I swear to God. There's two guys sitting in front of me and my mother. And they're going around on a yellow flag, and the one guy turned to the other one and he said, if that number 18's got a flathead in it, I'll kiss your ass. And they had the sides covered up. They built panels so you couldn't see the engine for that particular race. Because they wanted to just run the race. You know, they probably knew they were going to get caught, you know. So anyway, pretty sure it wasn't legal anyway. The old man said he didn't think it was legal. So anyway, they ran about 5 more laps after that, and the left front blew. And Strainer was still leading the thing. And a couple more laps after that, the right front blew, and he went in the pits, and that was the end of it. But I'll never forget that night. And I'll tell you, those two guys, I swear to God, those were their exact words. Oh, that's a flathead in there, I'll kiss your ass. And Don Strain could drive a race car. There's no doubt in my mind after watching that. Because he was leading. I didn't know it at first, but he was. But he was a nice man, you know. I remember he'd find a penny on the ground, he'd pick it up. Yep, heads up, they're going to race tonight. You know, just little things like that. Another story I got to tell you. This back bumper right here. I was at the garage one time where they worked on the car, where they had their business. And somebody, I don't remember who it was, I never knew who it was, somebody knocked the back bumper off the car. And Carl was putting the back bumper back on it. And he made it out of channel iron just like that. and he cut it off with a torch on the ends. And Don was there, and my dad was there, and I was hanging around with him. And it was kind of rough where he cut it off with the torch. And he went to get the grinder, and Don says, "What are you doing with that?" And Carl said, "Well, I'm going to smooth it up." He said, "No, you're not." He said, "You leave it just like that." I said, "Because when that Gilbert kid hits me again," he said, "We'll cut his tie." I swear to God. He said, "These are true stories. I was there. I was there." Things like that I remember. You know, when I built that bumper, I remember that whole deal.
Oh, so there you go. Got a little rough edge to it.
Get a little rough here.
Well, no, I smoothed mine up. But then there's another story I got to tell quick, and then I'll quit reminiscing too much about this. But after my dad's partner died, they got out of the racing. Like I say, my dad got out. But his engine was still in the car, that Pontiac engine. And they were going to sell the car. Well, Dick had a buddy, Gilbert had a buddy that wanted to buy the car. And they bought the car. So we're down to their shop, my dad's shop, and they're pulling the motor out of it, him and Don. And I'm sitting in the car, like I used to do whenever I got the chance, you know, pretending I'm driving it. And it had a Lincoln radiator in it. And Lincoln radiators are big, real big.
Why?
And I remember Don saying to my dad, "Boy, I sure would like to have that Lincoln radiator." And my dad said, "Well, there's some more in the garage." He said, "Take that and we'll put one of the other Ford ones in the car," because the radiator was supposed to go with the car. Everything but that engine was supposed to go in the car. And Don goes, "No," he said, "that Gilbert killed. He'll spot that right away." And I was there when Dick Gilbert came to pick this car up. And that's the first thing he said. Where's that Lincoln radiator? You know, those kind of things are priceless to me. I mean, I knew Dick. That comes later in the story, but you know, Dick was very, very good to me when I started racing and helped me a lot. He really did. Don was out of it pretty much when I started. Don was the inspiration, and Dick helped follow through. And I owe a lot of my success to Dick Gilbert in the beginning, because I wouldn't have known where to even start. I had a rough idea where to start and build a car, but it wasn't working very good, and I never really drove, so I didn't know what I was doing. But he told Danny Chapman, who was working with him at the Chevy garage at the time, he said, "If you guys want some help, I'll come and help you." And Danny told me that. I said, "Well, of course we want some help." Because Danny was helping me with that 65 after I built it, my first car I built. And that's how Dick kind of got involved. In fact, he won a feature in that car. I got a picture of it. He drove it one night. Well, he drove it several features. He'd drive the feature, I'd drive the heat until I got figuring out what it was doing. Because I drove both of them at first, and shit, I was out there, but that was about, you know, the extent of it. The very first car I ever built was a 56 Pontiac with Danny. Danny and I dragged a 56 Pontiac out of the woods up in Mayville. And we built a hooligan, but we only raced it twice.
What year?
It was in '68. We built it. I wasn't even old enough to be in the pits, actually, but I got in there. They let me in. But we had a guy drive it that Danny knew on Saturday at State Line. Then we ran it once more in Erie with Don Strain in it.
Really?
Yeah,
Don Strain drove your hooligan?
Drove that 56 Pontiac, yeah. Oh, that's a story.
That ties the whole thing together.
That car's a story in itself. We bought that car and built it in Danny Chapman's dad's driveway. Me, Danny, and another fellow named Bill Batson, who we graduated with. We were all together in school. And we built that car, and we took it to State Line. And we couldn't get to first base with it. We went from first to last, you know, half a lap, you know. And so then we decided, well, my old man, he was pissed off, you know. "I told you guys it's nothing but a heartache, you know, you shouldn't be doing this stuff. You're wasting your time," because we worked all summer. We worked like animals to get that car. But anyway, we put a different motor in it for Erie a couple weeks later, because we thought it was the motor was the problem. And I had a 63 Pontiac engine I'd taken out of an old wrecked station wagon that I bought for the front end. I was dabbling in cars when I was a young teenager. So we put that motor in it and decided to take it to Coon Road, which had been abandoned for 8 years, 10 years at this point. I think they quit running 61 or something up there. This was 68, 7 years. We took it to Coon Road just to try it out. So we got it up there, and we're driving through. It's growing up little saplings here and there, and it was missing. So we take it back home, and Danny started messing with it, and the cam was out of it. It had a lobe off the cam, that second motor we put in. So I said, let's go down and see the Betamies, because the Betamies were running Pontiacs with Johnny Ditch, and they had a garage full of Pontiac parts. They bought that new 65 Catalina that they took to Daytona.
Right.
Then they brought it back here and ran local with it. But anyway, Sam Betamy grabbed all of that cam. We took it to him in a towel, and it was still warm. And he was sitting at his kitchen table, and he says, you guys, he says, must really want to race. This cam's still warm. So out in the shop, he went, yeah, I got one. He gave us this cam, gave it to us, sold it to us. I don't remember how much, but we took it home, put it back in. A couple weeks later, we went to Erie with it, and with Don in it, because I told Danny, I said, I'm going to go talk to John Strain. I said, we got to have somebody decent in this car I know can drive, because this other guy we had driving, I don't know if he ever drove before or not. So we get Don Strain, we go to Erie. Of course, my mom and dad go again, Danny's mom and dad go again, and the same freaking deal. Don went out there in hot laps, he comes in, and Danny said, how did it handle? And Don said, I don't know, I couldn't get it going fast enough. Jesus Christ, at this point, this is really good, you know. So he went out and ran the car. I don't know where he finished or nothing else. Well, we got home after that, and the old man told me, that's it. He said, you guys, you know, you got to get out of this. Because I was still living at home, you know. I forget how old I was. 68, I'd have been, what, about 16, 17? 16, I guess. But anyway, that was the end of that deal. We pulled the motor out of it and sold the car to another guy. And the funny part is, I put that motor and tranny in a road car, and I found out why it wouldn't go anywhere. The clutch was slipping. The clutch was slipping terrible bad. So no wonder neither one, not that we'd have done much more probably if it hadn't been, but I mean, it was slipping bad, because we put that standard transmission setup in there. It was an automatic car, the 56 originally. We worked on that car like animals most of that summer.
Back to this car, Bill.
Yeah.
What tracks did your dad race this car at?
They raced to the Coon Road, State Line, went to Arkwright a few times, and I remember it went to North Collins once.
Okay.
And it went to North Collins once with that Pontiac engine, because they wanted to try it out before that $100.
Okay.
I remember that.
Tell us who you remember were the hot dogs at, let's say, Arkwright, when you were up there.
Well,
what do you remember?
I definitely got to say Johnny Ditch. He'd win a lot of races, John did. The Hausers would run up there. Ted Hauser. Ted Hauser was good. Real good. Yeah. And so was Jim. The Gilberts ran Arkwright. I'm sure there's a bunch of them that I don't remember. These are guys from town. Mike Shreves used to run up to Arkwright. He wound up helping Ditch in later years. But
Okay, how about over to Coon Road? What do you remember about that
Coon Road,
place?
Jimmy Dunn, I definitely have to say, was one of the very best. Seems like there was a guy named Spike Doverspike used to run up there. And here again, the Hausers.
How about your friend, the Mystery Man?
Oh, we can't forget Kenny. See, that's the trouble. I know so many of them. Kenny was good. Kenny was real good at Coon Road. Yeah. And I remember the announcer calling him that, too. Yeah. Number 90. Kenny C.
So here you are. By the way, your first name again, Mrs. Strain?
Emma.
Emma, thank you for coming today. I'm looking at behind you a car that's a 1941, I believe, and it says 18 Don Strain. And you see this today for probably maybe the first time in a while.
Yeah.
What do you think of when you see this car?
I think of my husband racing. He always done racing. That's all he thought about. I don't know.
What did your husband do for a living?
He worked at the Thruway down to Westfield.
What did he do for the Thruway?
I think he was, I don't know if he was a mechanic or he worked out on the road. He plowed snow, I know.
Okay. And how did he get an interest in race car driving?
I don't know. I have no idea.
When you first met him, was he a driver then?
No.
No?
No, he wasn't. I don't know, he just liked racing. Anything he could get hold of, he just was racing all the time.
Did he, how did, like a car like this, did he build his cars or was he just a driver?
Well, he built some of them, yeah, and then he raced for other people too.
What's your first recollection when you tagged along with him to watch?
Oh yeah, I went to all the races.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember some of the tracks?
Sulphur Springs, and there was one up on the hill. I don't know what they called it.
That would have been Arkwright, maybe?
Yeah, we went there, and all. I mean, up where we live, it was on Coon Road.
Coon Road.
Yeah, there was a track up there, but I don't know what they called it.
Coon
Did you
Road.
live on Coon Road?
No, we live on Parker Road.
Okay.
As you look at this car and it says number 18, why number 18? Do you remember?
I really don't know. That's the number he picked, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why.
When did Don start racing? Can you give me sort of a time period after you were married to him?
Yeah, yeah. I really can't remember when he started racing.
It would have been in the 50s.
Probably.
Yeah.
Kids were small.
And what do you recall when he went to the racetrack? Did he work all week on the cars, or was there?
Yeah, he worked on them. Well, we had a place where he worked outside. He unplugged my stove and plugged in the welder and worked on his stock car.
I love it.
That's what he did. I couldn't do no cooking because he was welding on a stock car.
That's a great story. And so it would have been a car sort of like this one here behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he worked for, he drove a car for Kenny Clute too.
Kenny.
Kenny Clute.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then who else did he work with or drive for? Do you remember?
Larson.
Swede Larson.
Yeah. He drove some newer cars too, but I didn't go to those races because it was not around here. I don't know where it was now.
Like State Line stock cars.
Yeah, he drove over there, and I can't remember all the tracks he went to.
When he was driving, and you're with the young kids, getting dirt all over you. What did you feel like when your husband's out there driving?
No, I keep an eye on him. I couldn't watch the other cars. I'd watch him. So
How many children did you have, Emma?
3.
And did you always take your children
Oh
with you
yeah,
to the races?
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And were most of the races on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah, mostly Saturday night and Sunday night.
Yeah.
Oh, we went to Ohio too for races. A big track out there.
Did Don have some success?
Oh yeah, he won. He's got quite a few trophies.
And did you keep much memorabilia, pictures, maybe even movies of Don?
No movies, no. I just got a few pictures of cars.
Do you, we're here, this car is being renovated by Bill Catania.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember his dad being part of this team?
Yes, I do.
What do you remember about Mr. Catania?
He was always there. I didn't really know him.
Yeah. So when Don, would he be gone all week as far as working on the car? When he's not working, he's working on the car?
No, he's usually home. He just
There, yeah.
he was home at night and everything. With just went racing on weekends.
Do you remember any of the money aspects of racing? Do you remember if Don made any money racing?
I
Or
don't.
did he just do this for fun?
I'm mainly for fun and got trophies, that's about it.
Do you remember if he had to invest any money in the cars?
I really don't. I don't think he did. He just drove them for other people. Or some of them he built himself or done the welding on them. I don't think he made much money.
Do you remember the names of any of the drivers who were his friends, people that would stop by the house perhaps to talk to him?
I don't know.
Leon Lindstrom.
Lindstrom's, yeah. Gilbert's. Bob Gilbert, I think, raced. It's been so long, I can't remember their names.
Does the name Johnny Ditch?
Yeah, I remember that name.
Yeah. Did your husband, as he were at some of the races, do you remember a couple of the races where maybe he not only did well or maybe had a bad accident or something where you looked out there and said, "Oh my gosh"?
Well, he didn't have too many bad accidents, but he had one car that had a lemon on it, and he'd roll that over every weekend to get, so just for the fun of it.
So this would have been one of the jalopy tracks here. He would, as an exhibition, roll it over.
Yeah, I think that was at Sulphur Springs.
I think they paid $5 for that.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
So during the races, they would say, "All right, here comes Don Strain. Everybody's going to watch him roll it over."
Probably, yeah.
He probably got paid to do that.
Yeah, I think he did. I think they paid him to roll it over.
Did he race for like 10 years? Do you recall? What was it?
Yeah, at least 10 years.
What caused him to stop racing? You? Did you just say,
No, I
"Enough,
didn't.
Don?"
I didn't tell him to stop racing. He wouldn't listen to me anyway. Oh, he had his ranchero there. He pulled that stock car and he'd go about 90 miles an hour. That's my daughter. He had that ranchero that Donald's got, and he pulled that he pulled the stock car with that. And he used to go around Ripley Hill, up Ripley Hill, about 80, 90 around them curves.
Really? Towing the race car.
Yeah.
Did he actually ever really retire from racing, or did he sort of hang around afterwards?
No, I don't think he hung around after he quit racing. He
Ever
was.
going to pits or?
I don't think so.
So your best recollection, your dad racing. I mean, you were one of the kids that showed up at the track with
Right.
Mom and watching Dad. What's some recollections you might
I
have?
just remember one time one guy kept pushing him out and spinning him out. And the guy tipped over and Dad come around and slammed right in the top of his car.
Really?
Yeah,
Do you recall your dad rolling over? Do you remember any of that?
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, not every kid's dad was able to roll a car over.
Right. It was pretty exciting watching him race.
Did you look forward to going on the weekends where you all packaged up and go?
Yeah.
So when you went to places like State Line or Sulphur Springs or Arkwright, these are dirt tracks.
I didn't go to those places. I just went like to State Line and Coon Road. And I didn't go to Sulphur Springs when he went.
So your dad, being a race car driver, was that somewhat of a celebrity thing for you at school? Was the fact that your dad raced cars? That's
The kids really didn't say too much.
yeah.
No.
So your big recollection is your dad getting mad at somebody. Do you
Right.
remember who that was?
No, I don't.
Do you remember him talking about it afterwards? Why he got mad?
Just because the guy was pushing him out, slamming into him, and that's why he did it.
Now would that have been a stock car or jalopy like this?
I think it was something like this.
Yeah. Does this car, when you look at it, would this have been a car your dad would have been driving when you were?
Oh yeah, yeah. If I remember That picture over there, I remember it.
Yeah.
We got pictures of the home of it.
Do you? I know your mother. We asked her about memorabilia. Do you have much on Don?
Not really.
Yeah.
We did have a lot of pictures, but I don't know what happened to them
I
all.
don't know. I can't find them. I don't know what happened to them.
When Dad finally hung it up, did he talk much that he missed it?
No, never really said too much about it after he quit.
Yeah.
Not
What-
to me.
What did he do for a living?
We're on the throughway.
Throughway, and then retired from the Throughway.
Right.
I don't. When did he pass away?
What year was it?
He's been gone 11 years.
Okay.
The 9th of June,
Nights of-
11 years.
Okay. Bill's gonna start this up. Have you been here when he's done any work on that? Have you seen this before?
No, this is the first time.
So, this is
I
kind of,
know he was building it, but
Yeah.
I didn't. This is the first time we've seen it.
well, how cool is this? So, in a perfect world, what's gonna happen here is Bill's gonna get in the car, and he's not gonna crawl through the window, because,
Try going through this door over here, but
yeah, he's actually figured out how to get in by opening a door, which I'm sure your husband did
No, he
not.
went through the window.
He went through the window.
So, Bill's gonna cheat just a little bit, but he's gonna start it up for us and drive it around. So, this will be the first time you'll probably see the car, similar car, to what your husband and your father drove.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a picture of Don over there.
Oh.
He looks like he was a big guy.
Yeah, he was.
Was he a big guy? He
Yeah.
had big arms on him and
Yeah.
stuff. How tall would you say he was?
No,
5'7".
probably.
Pardon me?
5'7".
A 5'7", okay?
But he looks like he got big arms. Like he's really strong.
He was.
Yeah, he was.
He was?
I'm envisioning that when he was working on his engine in your yard and you could no longer cook because he's welding, did he have to, did he pull the engine out on a tree? Did he?
Yeah. We had 2 trees in our yard, and he had a thing across it with the things you pull up. What do you call them?
Put this back on her.
Chain fall?
Yeah.
You want this back on
I
her?
can get him.
Take the motors out.
Yeah,
Put them
chain
back
fall.
in.
Crazy.
You
I
guys
would
are
have thought the guy would have got you a gas stove, so that you could, then he could have the electricity all to himself.
We don't have gas where we live.
Oh, you guys are terrific.
Yeah, that was-
And you know what? We're gonna get your mic off, and we'll get you in a position so you can maybe sit in a chair and watch Don. Bill. All right, let's see what you got here.
Before I do this, I gotta add one more thing. I told Randy, I don't want this left out. Don Strain had a habit. Every now and then he'd be talking to you and he'd wink at you like that. I want to make his point. He was a very nice man. He was always very nice to me as a little kid. Some people would treat you like a pain in the ass at my age, but not them guys. Him and Larson both always were very nice to me. I just want to make sure that that's it.
Yeah, terrific.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, this is.
Surprised that running board's got anything left to it, Bill.
Well, you know what's kind of funny about this car? There's parts of it that are solid as hell yet. And there's other parts that are pretty sad. This floor was all gone.
Yeah, I can see the floor. Well, you said it was parked outside. That's why.
Yeah, but you know, see what I mean about it was perfect stock car material?
Yeah.
I mean,
The dash is solid. Look
could
at
be
that.
brought back, I suppose, but it wouldn't, it just wouldn't really be worth it. So it was perfect stock car material.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, let's see what happens.
Think it was white? Thank you, Emma. Thank you so much.
Hope you kick your ass in the pool again. I tell them that you know more than all the rest of them anyways.
Thank you.
I'll make sure you see it when it's all painted.
Yeah, we'll get you a copy of it.
Thanks again. But, you know, he's telling me and my mother, yeah, we bought a stock car, we're gonna race this year. And that's when they went to Coon Road to start racing, and they put some guy in it. If I remember right, his name was Nelson Button. Drove this car the very first time. And I think he drove it once. Yeah. And that was the end of him. And the next thing I know, Dad said, we're gonna have Don Strain drive it. Don drove it all the rest of the time because they wanted a good driver. And so then years and years and years went by, and I never had a picture of this car. Never. And it wasn't until just a few years ago I asked Donnie one day, I said, when I found out he was Don's grandson, I said, you don't have any pictures of that car, do you? And he brought me got a picture from him. I always thought that was really cool, and I've had that picture ever since he gave it to me. And then I found this old coupe on the internet, on eBay, and the wheels started turning, and I thought, I'm going to build a copy of that car. Because I wanted my dad to keep that car way back when, but he didn't want to stay in it. After his partner died, after Larson died, he wanted out. But it's because of this car I wound up racing, you know, and that's why I'm doing it now, because just to do it, I guess. Memory of all the old time guys that used to run these kind of cars. Because I knew a lot of them. I used to watch, I didn't know them all, but I watched a lot. Just a memory, yes. Memory game.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're very welcome. I wish Don was here.
So do I.
I'm sure you do.